O you who believe, fear Allah the fear that He deserves, and are not accept in the state of Islam, which is utter submission to Allah Azza wa Jal in all His rulings and laws. My dear brothers in Islam, last week we gave a mini introduction into Dawah. I hope that we got some sort of picture into how important, no, how lethal and dangerous it is not to perform Dawah to ourselves, to our families, and to the community. My dear brothers in Islam, inshallah, I want to go through a little story. I'm going to try to go through it quickly. But there's something based upon this story, a message that I want to get across. There's a person who writes his own story, he tells his own story. This is a person who finished school and worked in a factory. He was fired, Arabs, due to his absence, but he went from job to job until he saved a little bit of money. What should I do with this money? His friends advised him to use it to go to the West. Have a holiday, have some fun. So this man, or this child, this teenager, after being convinced again and again and again and again, his friends using sins, the disobedience of Allah, the displeasure of Allah, women, fun, alcohol, to convince him. And he still was on the borderline until one of them actually bought him the ticket. May Allah reward him what he deserves. He buys him a ticket and he goes to the West. Over there, he says, subhanAllah, shayateen of men. Literal people who are literally shaitan, working for Iblis. So over there he met shabab whose only desire is his only goal is to fulfill every desire that comes to mind. He learnt there's smoking, alcohol, zina, and then drugs. This is him telling his own story. He tried every single filthy thing you can think of. And he would come back, go to work, save up money, and then just repeat it again. Again and again. Until one day, on one of these trips, one of the drug dealers refuses to pay, to sell him some drugs. So he goes out in the streets of this unknown city, doesn't even know anyone, looking for someone to sell him drugs. Some people invite him over. Here, take this and take that, take this and take that. Doesn't even know what he's taking. So drugged, so drunk, that when they offered him zina, he didn't even have the ability to say no. So this person goes back home, and this time the effects of the drugs wouldn't leave. So he came home, he went back to work, but he was feeling the effects of the drugs continuously. He should have got himself checked up, but he couldn't stop his addiction. So he continued to work and went to another city, and continued to work and went to another city, and he kept doing this until he got so sick that he was bedridden. When he got himself checked up, he had AIDS. He went and got himself checked up and he had AIDS. Now this time, after this news, his whole world was shattered. He felt like his chest was being crushed. All his desires instantly disappeared. Allahu Akbar. Before that, I can't let go. I can't get rid of this addiction. I can't leave the cigarette. I can't leave the drugs. I can't leave the attachment to dunya, the overworking, the cigarette, that girl. Now in one instant, every single desire disappeared immediately. And the only thing that remained was pain, sorrow, and regret. What are his friends going to do for him now? How's that person who bought him the ticket going to help him now? SubhanAllah. This man says, this is my story in summary. All I know is I have AIDS and I await death. And even though I approach death very quickly, I don't care, for it returned me to Allah. Look at now what he's saying. Now, after what? He doesn't care now because it returned him to Allah. I advise all brothers and sisters, to beware of drugs, sin and evil friends, for verily they are the soldiers of shaitan. I bid you all farewell, for by the time you read this, I may very well be under the dirt, so please ask Allah Ta'ala to forgive me. These were this man's message to everyone. What's my message? Why am I mentioning this story? SubhanAllah, this morning we were reading, I was leading the Fajr prayer, and I was reading a verse from Surah Al-Baqarah. Sometimes we go over it very quickly, especially when we want to start reading the Qur'an and we never continue it. We always start with the Baqarah. Allah Azza wa Jal, وَإِذْ أَخَذْنَا مِيثَاقَكُمْ وَرَفَعْنَا فَوْقَكُمُ الطُّورَ خُذُوا مَا آتَيْنَاكُمْ بِقُوَّةٍ وَاسْمَعُوا قَالُوا سَمِعْنَا وَعَصَيْنَا. My dear brothers in Islam, pay attention, because this is happening to me and you. Allah Azza wa Jal, after saving Bani Israel from Fir'aun, from slavery, from torture, from humiliation, after showing them signs in front of their own eyes, Allahu Akbar, in front of their eyes, they saw the ocean split. You know, when you pay someone for the job and he doesn't come do it, what happens? All hell breaks loose. I really paid you. If he came and quoted the job, I'd still have an argument with him. Let alone if I had paid him and it doesn't come up. Allah Azza wa Jal saved you. Now He's telling them, fulfill the covenant you promised me. They disbelieved. They worshipped the cow. Until Allah Azza wa Jal put the mountain on top of their head. Literally, the whole mountain was on top of their head. Now fulfill the covenant. Fulfill what you promised me. And still they said, Sama'na wa asayna. We hear and we disobey. Allahu Akbar. My dear brothers in Islam, I ask you by Allah, how is that different to what's happening to us today? Every country in the world, slaughtered, massacred, raped, pillaged, children, women, old men, land stolen, wealth ripped, stripped. Yet me and you still don't realize we have to come back to our deen. Yet me and you still don't realize that our next generation is going to further throw us into the pits of not Jahannam, of the dunya. Because of the way that things are going, with all this Facebook and Instagram, with all this gaming, with the things that's happening out there today, with our youth, the next generation, forgive me, Allah Azza wa Jal does not change the state of a people until they change the state of themselves. And we are changing. By Allah, we are changing, but for the worse. So I'm pretty sure our situation is going to change for the worse. Forgive me for being pessimistic, but that's the ayah. It's not my saying. Where are we headed? How much more do we have to cop? How much more do we have to be punished? How many more calamities do we have to befall us? How much more of our lands have to be before we turn back to Allah? Before we leave that desire, we can't leave it. That addiction, that worldly pleasure. Or is it only when me and you, are we selfish enough that only for me, when me and you are directly affected, that's only when I care? Remember that story I mentioned a few months ago? That man married to two, and his son came home, 20-year-old, raped his 16-year-old sister. And she got pregnant. And now he's coming to the Shaykh, and now he wants Sharia law to be applied to us. Now you want Sharia law because it affected you directly. Before that, when you used to get drunk and go out there and harm people and harm people's daughters, when you used to go out there and sell alcohol and cause others to be harmed, you didn't care. You kept going back and forth from each wife. But now that you're directly affected, now you want Sharia? It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Can you believe that for the past few weeks I've been dealing with a brother whose family is being torn apart because he's addicted to pornography. He's addicted to pornography and his wife can't stand him no more. She wants to leave him. He's got 2 kids. And the more that he tries to stop, the harder it gets, because she can't stand to even look at him, let alone sleep with him, because of his addiction, and he can't let go of the addiction without her helping him and sleeping with him. So it's stuck in a catch-22. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I'm sitting there, subhanAllah. It's a very dangerous topic, how you deal with it. Because by Allah today you can't forgive me for getting worked up. You can't even tell someone that something is haram when it's blatant haram, because you're scared of the repercussions. But this person came to me telling me, help me. So I tried to help him. How he should get over his addiction, what he should do, the steps he should take, the repentance he should make. I get a call yesterday morning. He's crying, losing his mind. Ya Shaykh, I ruined my family. Ya Shaykh, I destroyed my family. I ruined my kaza, I ruined my kaza. What did he do? He cheated on his wife. Now his blood is halal. The worst of sins. The Prophet ﷺ said there is nothing more hated to Allah than someone putting his seed in someone else's farm. Now his sin has made his blood halal. That's how major of a sin it is. No, I'd rather him stay on pornography. You don't even know what to say to people these days. You don't even know how to help people. This is our community. This is me and you. This is our kids in the future. May Allah protect them. Can you imagine that same day, I get a call. Assalamu alaikum, there's a brother Fulan, he wants to speak to you. This guy deals with social issues. Khair, inshallah. Booked a time for him. He told me some of the things before that. He goes, there's a what's it called? A child, 12 years old, that he's dealing with. This kid was caught on pornography at 12 years old in a Qur'an class. He's in a Qur'an class and he's corrupting the kids with him. They're watching porn in a Qur'an class. Now this is not the major news, yani. That's normal these days, forgive me, but it's become a norm of 99.9% of our children. Don't be naive. Don't be naive. A PG movie on TV these days shows nudity. PG, wallahi PG. Yani parental guidance is an option. Full nudity. So the Quran teacher calls up the father. He tells him, your son did 1, 2, 3. You know what he said? He goes, was it homosexual porn or normal porn? He goes, normal. He goes, what's wrong with that? He's a child. That's normal for his age. This guy is so stupid, so naive, that he doesn't even realize where it's going to lead to later on. I'm dealing the same day, that same morning I was speaking to this bloke, breaking down because his porn addiction and trying to leave it caused him to cheat on his wife. Where's our community headed? Where's our ummah headed? Are you telling me we're not going to get stepped on even more with a community like that? Another case he's dealing with is a teenager who's seeing him because he's addicted to homosexual porn. He's not a homosexual himself, but he's addicted to it. I don't know why. If he's not a homosexual, I don't know why. Muslim, he just likes to watch it. Where did that lead to? A few months down the track, he started experimenting with his cousin. Imagine that. You can't even visit your son, can't even sit with his male cousins anymore. Who does he sit with? Who does he sit with? I had a brother the other day tell me he's never had Facebook in his life. Older brother, not young, over 35. He goes, for the first time he made an account for Facebook. He needed it for something to do with work. He found out his best friend since childhood was gay. But he never told him for all those years. This is all this week. A few days before that, I had a brother sitting down in front of me that I did not count him out for the life of me. He bawling his eyes out. He's never seen his mum in the 25 years of his life. He's never seen his mum normal. She's on drugs. 25 years, his mum's never told him except for once in his life, how are you? At 18, when she came out of rehab once, after his family got destroyed and his dad divorced, left 3, 4 girls and 2 boys, or 3 boys. That was the first time when his mum came out of rehab, that was the first time she looked at him and she said, how are you, my son? Bawling his eyes out. A family of 3 Palestinian boys that I used to deal with from when they were 9 years old, 9, 10 and 11, 3 in a row. Mum got remarried after a very bad divorce. The new husband, gambling problems. Makes big money, gambles it, doesn't show up for 3-4 days, then comes home and wants. My dear brothers in Islam, this is our community. This is what's happening in our community every single day. And you know, this new generation, it is so dangerous because the filth has become so normal to them, and you can't even say anything to them. I'm scared I tell a little kid, don't watch porn, because this guy might go commit zina. I can't tell him no. I don't even know what to say anymore. Can you imagine at this last camp last weekend, a kid listens to a talk. He couldn't take the talk, he went outside and he smoked weed after the talk. Babe, if you can't, he wants to do the sin and you can't even tell him it's haram, what do you do? How do you help? Where were the parents, those traitors? Forgive me, but those traitors to their responsibility, to their amana that Allah gave them. Where were they when he was young? Where was the Islamic teachings? Where were the Islamic principles? Where was he? Where was he when he was raising them? Actually, where was the lack of raising them? SubhanAllah, Allah Azza wa Jalla gave us one job as fathers, one job. It was, and by Allah, it's not to go work and make money for your kid, because Allah Azza wa Jalla is the one that's providing for you and for him. You can't provide for your son when you can't even provide for yourself. Allah gives to both. You know what it is? Oh, you who believe, save yourselves and your families from a hellfire whose fuel is men and stone. Your only job, my only job as a father, is to make sure my son, my daughter doesn't end up coal for hellfire. That's my only job. Where was he? Where were the Islamic teachings? You know, if this kid grew up with the stories of the prophets, would you think he would be watching homosexual porn and find it normal? In the back of his head, through the stories of the prophets that he was raised upon, he'd know it's something wrong, because he built it into his subconscious. And you know what's sadder than that? What's sadder than that is how much me and you are going to get punished for these people. What have we done for them? I ask you by Allah, what have we done for them? Where do they go if they want to get off their addiction? To the kuffar. What do the kuffar teach him? He comes with their alcohol problem. They tell him, find a girl, find a job, busy yourself for some other haram to get off that addiction. And to them they've won, they're successful. That's what's happening to our youth. They're going to kuffar to get rehabilitated, but they go in, they get rehabilitated from drugs, but they come out without Islam. They leave Islam in there, especially the ones with anxiety, depression and suicide tendencies. Go see what they teach them. No, there's no Allah, there's no akhirah, there's no punishment or hellfire. Don't worry about that. Find something worth living for. You only live once. You got to enjoy it. Go find this, go find that, get addicted to this, get addicted to that, find the hobby, that's what they teach them. So my son comes out after having those tendencies and he comes out without Islam. No, forgive me, but I'd rather him commit suicide and die in Islam. I know it's a major sin, but then to live as a kafir and die as a kafir. And if you don't think that, I'd question your iman. If you wouldn't rather that, then I question your iman, because if you don't rather that, you don't believe in the akhirah. Because if he dies as a kafir, he's never entering Jannah ever. Eternity in hell. I ask you by Allah, is this not a fard kifayah? If it's a fard kifayah and we don't provide for it, if we're not doing something about it, we all get the sin, myself included. What have we done for him? Tell me one Muslim rehabilitation center that caters for all these, not one that just does domestic abuse because that's what the media portrays today. That caters for all these things. If we can't answer, wallahi, we're going to be judged. Wallahi, we're going to be questioned. 30 grand at the end of the year for a family holiday. The whole year you don't know what your son, what your daughter's been up to. She's sitting right next to you. Allahu alam what she's doing, who she's speaking to, what she's learning. Filth, feminism. Feminism is kufr. I ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to forgive us. Wallahi, I don't know what else to say. The more I sit down and get, SubhanAllah, this only started 3 weeks ago when I started delving into these topics, because I'm overwhelmed. Wallah, I don't know what to do. I come home, my wife looks at me, she goes, what's wrong with you? I want to tell her. You know, the subhanAllah, that brother that was on porn and then committed zina? For a day and a half, I thought I was at fault. My wife looked at me, she couldn't, I thought because I told him to leave porn, that I left him vulnerable, and then when that girl offered herself, he committed zina. You can't even tell someone get off porn anymore. The filthiest of actions. Until the very next day when he called up and he told me the whole story. That's when I realized it was before I even tried to get him off porn. My dear brothers in Islam, let me guarantee you one thing. If me and you are selfish enough to not do anything until me and you are directly affected, I can guarantee you Allah won't help us. It's not fair. You didn't care about anyone else. It doesn't mean we don't do anything. We have to try. But why should Allah Azza wa Jal help us? If we're that selfish, only me, myself and I, my family. Wallah, the next door neighbor could be being raped to death, I don't care, as long as it doesn't happen to my family. May Allah Azza wa Jal forgive us. May Allah Azza wa Jal guide us. And may Allah Azza wa Jal use us to fix these problems. Ameen. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فيا فوز المستغفرين. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. My dear brothers in Islam, a few brothers and myself have been working on a new initiative, and this is putting down a structure, and we've been researching to find brothers and to train them up in the various social problems we have amongst our youth, amongst our it was just youth. I wish it was just the youth amongst our community today. So this is training up people to do with drugs, alcohol and gambling addictions, pornography addictions, domestic violence, suicide cases, sex offenders, homosexuality, and social issues like Facebook and Instagram. Even gaming itself has been recognized by the World Health Organization a couple of weeks ago as a disease. After that 9-year-old girl peed her pants while playing Fortnite, so she doesn't have to get up and so she won't leave the game. They've classified it now as a disease. They've classified gaming as a disease. Mind you, the things I've seen, the outcomes of gaming, even at the center, the boys and the girls, they're talking, they're deciding where to meet up and how, and getting to know each other over gaming, over Fortnite, over the microphone while they're playing. On those messages, they're talking to each other and seeing where they're going to meet up. We saw it with our own eyes. It's not something I'm telling you I heard of. Even sex addictions and things like coming with the juvenile delinquents that come out of jail, even the older people that come out of jail, all these issues, inshallah, we're studying courses, degrees, programs where we could train up brothers to tackle these issues. And my plan is, inshallah, bidhnillah, after training up 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 people, to open up a rehabilitation center that caters for all this stuff, with housing, with a 24/7 hotline to deal with these issues. My dear brothers in Islam, wallahi, this is not an option. This is not an option. And inshallah, bidhnillah, to make sure people are aware of this, the first step of this, taking the steps in choosing the brothers and starting researching the courses. But before that, before they're ready, they need, some courses are 6 months, some courses are 2 years. Before they're ready to take on actual cases themselves, we're working on a structure and a plan for community awareness. So we're calling professionals in each and every single field to come and inform the Muslims of what's happening in our community, to make them aware so they can know what's happening and so they can help support fixing the problem. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to give us all the strength and the wisdom and the understanding to get on board. Ameen.
I wanna be in Jannah, Jannah, yeah. Jannah, Jannah. Every Muslim dreams to be up in Jannah, 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 Jannah. A pious person's destiny. Inshallah in Jannah, 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 Jannah.